Don't worry, once he pays off the mortgage, I'm gone. That's what my fiancée texted her mom. I kept quiet, built a trap, and when she tried crying to my parents, my father destroyed her entire scheme in seconds. All right, Reddit. So a couple months ago, I, Eddie, 31 male, found out my fiancée, 28 female, wasn't exactly planning a wedding, more like a payout. What started with one weird text on our shared tablet turned into the craziest few weeks of my life. Let's just say, I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't even confront her. I played along, and when the time was right, I made sure everyone saw who she really was. It was just a Tuesday, nothing worth remembering. I was in my office at home going over blueprints for a new client. The house was quiet, except for the faint noise of the TV where Amanda was curled up on the couch. Then the shared tablet buzzed on the counter. We hardly used that thing. It mostly just lived on the charger gathering dust. But something made me glance over. The message preview popped up on the iPad, from her mom, and I didn't even have to unlock it. It read, "Any luck getting him to talk about the mortgage?" It was from her mom. I frowned. Mortgage? That didn't make sense. Amanda didn't own property. My house was mine. Paid for, deed in my name long before she moved in. So what mortgage were they talking about? Before I could even process it, another bubble appeared. Amanda had just replied. Not yet. He's avoiding it. But don't worry. I'll get him to agree before the wedding. Once he pays it off, I'm gone. I just stared at it. You ever read something so blunt your brain refuses to process it? Like the words are in English but they don't add up in your head? That's what it felt like. I read it once. Twice. A third time. Same result. No typo. No joke. No misunderstanding. Amanda and her mom were plotting to get me to pay off her family's mortgage, and then she'd dump me. The first wave was pure anger. The kind of anger that makes your vision narrow. I wanted to smash the tablet, walk into the living room, and rip into her right there. The thought of her sitting 20 feet away laughing at some sitcom while planning to gut me financially made my blood boil. But then something else happened. It was like someone flipped a switch. My heart slowed down, my hands stopped shaking, and a cold kind of calm set in. I can't explain it except to say I've never been calmer in my life. Because here's the truth. You yell and scream when you're trying to fix something. But this wasn't worth fixing. This wasn't a fight. This was already dead. What was left now was demolition. And demolition is all about precision. I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of the lock screen. Sent it straight to my email. Then I locked the tablet and set it back on the counter like nothing happened. My face was steady. My voice was steady. Inside, though, every gear in my head was turning. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. Amanda glanced up from the couch. Hey, babe. You're quiet. Everything okay? Just thinking about a project, I said, casual as ever. My voice sounded normal, even to me. She smiled and went back to her show, completely unaware that I'd just seen the one text that cracked her whole little world wide open. That night, I lay in bed next to her. She scrolled through Instagram, laughing at memes, leaning over occasionally to kiss my cheek like nothing had changed. And I played along, keeping my breathing steady, my face unreadable. But my brain? My brain was running blueprints of its own. I thought back to little things that hadn't made sense before. The way she'd bring up her parents' stress about their house like she wanted me to ask more. The comments about how a strong partnership means sharing everything. The jokes about how she really hit the jackpot with me. I'd shrugged those off. Now they weren't random. They were pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was solving. And that line in her text, once he pays it off, I'm gone. That told me everything I needed to know. There was no maybe, no hesitation. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a heat-of-the-moment comment. It was a plan. Cold. Straightforward. Amanda thought she was clever. Thought she was playing chess while I was busy decorating the board. But what she didn't realize was that I'd just seen the entire game laid out in one move. Every scheme. Every trick. Every endgame. And I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Confrontation would give her time to fake cry, spin a story, maybe even gaslight me into second-guessing myself. I wasn't giving her that chance. Number. I was going to do this my way. Clean. Precise. Final. By the time I turned out the light, I knew this much. I wasn't her fiancé anymore. That role died the second I saw that message. From this point on, I was the problem she didn't see coming. She thought I was the guy paying off her family's mortgage. She had no idea I was about to foreclose on her entire plan. The next morning, I waited until Amanda left for her shift at the gallery. As soon as the door clicked shut, I pulled the tablet off the charger and opened her messages again. The iPad was still signed into her iMessage account. I hadn't touched it since we set it up, so everything was right there. This time, I didn't stop at the one text. I scrolled, and scrolled, and scrolled. It was like reading the script to a con movie where I was cast as the idiot Eddie. Months of back and forth between her and her mom. They didn't even try to be subtle. Her mom sent, "He makes good money. He's stable. That's what you needed. Now it's time to secure the house." Amanda replied, "He doesn't like talking about mortgages. He keeps saying it's not his business." Her mom, "Then make it his business. Play the future together card. If he resists, cry." Men hate when we cry. There were dozens of these. Coaching sessions, strategy planning. I could almost see them leaning over the phone, giggling like they were running Ocean's 11 out of a suburban living room. The worst part was Amanda's replies. She wasn't hesitating. She wasn't conflicted. She was in it, 100%. "He's so focused on the wedding right now, I barely have to try." He just nods and agrees. Sometimes I almost feel bad. He's actually a good guy. Her mom, "Don't feel bad. Feel smart. This is about your future, not his." Then the one that made me sit back in my chair and laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. "What about after he pays it off? Won't it look suspicious if I leave right away?" Her mom, "Stay for a year. Make it look normal. Then say you're unhappy. By then, the mortgage is gone. You're free. A year." They were actually scheduling how long she'd fake being my wife before walking. I scrolled further. Amanda bragging about how much I covered already. "He pays for everything. The house, the car insurance, the vacations. My paycheck is just for me. It's like having training wheels until I'm free." That one hit different, because it was true. I'd carried the weight while she coasted, and she still thought she was the one winning. I started screenshotting every single damning line, sent them to my email, backed them up in a cloud folder, saved them to a flash drive for good measure. If she ever tried to spin this, I wanted enough receipts to bury her 6 feet under a mountain of her own words. By the time Amanda got home that evening, I had her entire scam archived in 3 different places. She walked in with a bag of takeout and kissed me like nothing had happened. "I got your favorite," she said, all cheerful. I smiled back. "Thanks." Inside, though, I was cataloging every fake smile, every casual touch. She thought she was running the con. She didn't realize the Eddie had already flipped the script. The next day, I called Frank, my lawyer. He's an old school guy, no nonsense. The type who wears the same gray suit to every meeting and doesn't waste words. I explained the situation and showed him the screenshots. He scrolled through them slowly, eyebrows raised. Then, he set the tablet down and looked me dead in the eye. "She has no legal claim to anything you own. The house is yours. The business is yours. The only vulnerability you have is if you voluntarily pay that mortgage. You cut a check and it's gone. That's what they're aiming for." "So if I don't?" I asked. "Then she gets nothing. She walks away with whatever clothes are in your closet." "But," he leaned forward, "if you want to end this clean, you need to let her think she's still winning. If you confront her now, she'll just deny it and stall. Let her think she's close to cashing in. That's when you pull the rug out." That advice stuck with me. I'm an architect. I know about timing. You don't knock down a building mid-design. You wait until the scaffolding's up, the walls are in place, everything's standing tall. Then, you place the charges at the exact weak points and bring it down in one clean collapse. I left his office more certain than ever. The plan wasn't to argue. The plan wasn't to scream. The plan was to make her think the heist was working until the moment I made sure every single person saw what she really was. That night, Amanda came home talking about some color scheme she wanted for the wedding invitations. I nodded, played along, even joked about fonts. She smiled, leaned on my shoulder, and scrolled through Pinterest like nothing in her world was wrong. She had no clue her blueprint was sitting on 3 separate drives. No clue I'd already walked her playbook to a lawyer. No clue that every step she took closer to the finish line was a step I was letting her take on purpose. By the time she fell asleep on the couch, I knew exactly how the next few weeks would play out. Amanda thought she was about to secure her family's future. What she didn't realize was that I was already laying the foundation for her downfall. The trick now was patience. I couldn't just blow up on her. That would hand her the advantage. She'd flip into fake tears, call me controlling, maybe even run to her parents crying about how I misunderstood. No, I needed her to think the plan was still alive. I needed her comfortable, overconfident. So I started playing the part. A few days later, we were making dinner together. She was chopping vegetables. I was standing by the stove pretending to focus on the pan, and I sighed loud enough for her to notice. "What's wrong?" she asked. putting on that sweet, innocent tone she used when she wanted something. I shook my head, kept it casual. Just been thinking a lot about your parents' mortgage. About us. About how it'd feel to start married life with that kind of weight hanging over everything. I didn't even have to look at her to know her eyes lit up. She dropped the knife on the cutting board, grabbed my arm, and said, "You've been thinking about that?" Her voice was dripping with fake hope, like she'd been rehearsing it. "Yeah," I said. "I don't want that following us into marriage. It doesn't seem right. I want us to start clean, as a team." Her eyes watered immediately. If I didn't already know she was a fraud, I might have believed it. She hugged me, burying her face in my chest, like this was the moment she'd been dreaming of. "You're the most generous man I've ever met," she whispered. Generous. Right. That word sat in my head like a rotten fruit. She wasn't seeing generosity. She was seeing a payday. The second she stepped away, she grabbed her phone and darted into the hallway. I could hear her voice bouncing off the walls as she called her mom. "He's doing it! I told you he would. He said he doesn't want the mortgage hanging over us. I knew it." I stood there stirring the pan, biting back a laugh. The fish had taken the bait. But I wasn't done, because handing over money in private would give her too much control. I wanted this exposed publicly, where there was no room for spin, no misunderstanding excuses. I wanted both families to see the scam unravel in real time. So when she came back into the kitchen, smiling through her crocodile tears, I added one more line. "But listen, if I do this, I don't just want to wire money into some account. It's too important. This should be official. Something worth remembering." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I want to do it in front of our families. Make it part of the wedding build-up. A real moment. A dinner where I can give you the check, hand to hand. Symbolic, you know?" Her smile stretched so wide, I thought her face might crack. That's so romantic," she stammered. And then she hugged me again. Tighter this time, like she was clinging to the jackpot she thought she'd just secured. Romantic. If only she knew the only paper I'd be handing over wasn't a check, but her own words in black and white. That night, she spent an hour on the phone with her mom, pacing the hallway, giggling. "He wants to make it official. It's even better than we thought." I sat in the living room, quietly making notes of every word. Over the next week, I set the stage. First, I called Frank again. "She thinks I'm paying the mortgage," I told him. "Good," he said. The deeper she believes it, the harder the fall. Then I booked a private room at one of the nicest restaurants in town. The kind of place where the staff remembers your name and the chairs feel heavier than most people's couches. Amanda thought it was her idea, of course. "A family dinner? That's perfect. They'll all see what a man you are." Yeah, they'd see, all right, while she was giddy planning outfits and talking about how her parents would finally feel safe. Meanwhile, I was quietly arranging movers to box up her belongings the same night as the dinner. Frank had already confirmed she wasn't on the lease or the deed, so I was fully within my rights to have her things packed. The movers documented everything, photographed each box, and delivered it straight to her parents' address. Every shoe, every sweater, every bit of junk she'd scattered through my house would be sitting on her old doorstep before dessert was finished. I also changed the access codes on my home security system. Her fingerprint login on the smart lock? Gone. Garage remote? Deactivated. By the time the dinner was over, she'd be locked out permanently. She had no idea. She thought she was closing in on victory. She started being extra affectionate, cooking dinners she normally never bothered with, laughing at my jokes a little too hard. The whole "I'm the perfect fiancé" act. It would have been insulting if it wasn't so transparent, but I let her play her role. I nodded at the right times, held her hand, kissed her forehead. Meanwhile, I was sharpening the knife. The night before the dinner, she sat cross-legged on the couch, scrolling through dresses on her phone. "I can't decide what to wear tomorrow," she said. "It's such a big night." "Go with the blue one," I told her. "You look amazing in it." She beamed. "You're so sweet." I smiled back. Sweet? Not really. Strategic? Absolutely. Because tomorrow night, in that perfect blue dress, she was going to get everything she asked for, just not the way she expected. And the best part? She'd be the one handing me the stage. The night of the dinner, I walked into the restaurant like I was walking into a meeting I'd already won. Private room, round table, dim lighting, white tablecloths. Amanda was buzzing with excitement, practically glowing. Her mom wore that smug smile like she'd just orchestrated a Wall Street merger. Her dad looked happy but confused, like he always did. My parents were just proud, chatting about the wedding. Everyone thought this was going to be a big family unity night. They weren't wrong. It was unity, just not the kind Amanda had in mind. After the appetizers, Amanda squeezed my hand. I still can't believe you're doing this, she whispered, her voice trembling like I was about to hand her the keys to the world. You deserve it, I said smoothly. And I meant it, just not the way she thought. She deserved what was coming. Once the main course was cleared, I stood up, glass in hand. The room quieted, all eyes on me. First of all, thank you everyone for being here tonight, I began. Calm, steady voice, like I'd rehearsed it 100 times. We're here to celebrate a new chapter, and I wanted to do something special for Amanda. So I put together a little slideshow for her. Just a way to remember our journey together. Amanda covered her mouth with her hands, eyes wide. Her mom leaned over and whispered something to her, grinning. My mom smiled at me, touched by the gesture. The waiter dimmed the lights, and the TV in the private room flickered to life. Soft piano music played as the first pictures appeared. Me and Amanda at the beach, laughing. A selfie from our trip to Chicago. A shot of her showing off the ring. All smiles, all memories. Amanda's face lit up. Oh my God, she whispered. Her mom dabbed at her eyes like she was watching the climax of a romantic movie. I let it run for about 2 minutes. Happy couple. Happy memories. The perfect setup. Then, just when everyone was relaxed, the screen faded to black. The music cut out. And in giant, glowing font with the date and timestamp. Not yet. He's avoiding it. But don't worry. I'll get him to agree before the wedding. Once he pays it off, I'm gone. The room went dead silent. You could hear forks being set down. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. Amanda's smile froze. Her mom's face drained of color. My dad leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The next slide appeared. Her mom's coaching. Don't be aggressive. Make it about your future. Cry if you have to. He'll cave. Then Amanda's reply. He's so distracted with the wedding. Perfect timing. The words sat on the screen long enough for everyone to read. Then the next slide. Then the next. Slowly, one by one, every ugly piece of their plan filled the room. The stay for a year plan. The bragging about how I paid for everything. The smug messages about how easy it was to manipulate me. Each slide hit harder than the last. Amanda's dad's face went from confusion to horror as the reality sank in. My mom covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God," under her breath. My dad sat stone-faced, eyes fixed on the screen like he was reading a contract he'd already decided to rip apart. Amanda panicked. "Eddie, turn it off! This isn't fair! This is private!" She half stood, reaching toward the remote, but I calmly held it out of reach. "No," I said, my voice level. "This is the truth." Her mom tried to jump in. "This is out of context." The next slide cut her off. Her own words in big letters. "Don't feel bad. Feel smart. This is about your future, not his." She sank back in her chair, speechless. The final slide faded in, the one that started it all. Once he pays it off, I'm gone. The screen went black. The lights came back up. Every eye in the room was on Amanda. She sat frozen, face pale, mascara streaking. I set my glass down and looked around the table. "This wasn't a wedding," I said. Calm, measured. "It was a con. A very well-planned one, I'll give them that. But not well enough." Amanda broke down, sobbing. "No, it's not what it looks like. I can explain." I cut her off. "You already explained. In your own words." Slide after slide. Her dad turned to her mom, his face dark. "Martha, what did you do?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I turned to my parents. "I'm sorry you had to see this, but I needed you to know." Amanda and her mom weren't planning a marriage. They were planning a payout. Then I faced Amanda directly. "The engagement is over. We are over. The only thing you're taking home tonight is the slideshow in your head." I signaled to the waiter. The screen was rolled back up, the lights fully restored. My parents and I stood. Amanda reached out, sobbing. "Eddie, please! You can't do this!" I stepped back. "No, Amanda. You can't do this. You tried to use me as your family's personal bank. You thought you found someone too kind, too blind, too soft to notice. You were wrong." With that, I nodded to my parents. "Let's go." We walked out, leaving Amanda collapsed in her chair, her mom staring at the table, her dad with his head in his hands. The last thing I heard as the door shut was Amanda's voice, breaking, "He ruined everything." And she was right. I had. Just not in the way she thought. The fallout started before I even got home from the restaurant. My phone buzzed nonstop the whole drive. Missed calls, texts, voicemails stacking up. The first few were crying. Eddie, please, it was a misunderstanding. You don't know the full story. By the fifth voicemail, she'd shifted into anger. How could you humiliate me in front of my parents? Do you know what you've done? I didn't respond. I didn't even listen past the first 10 seconds of each message. By the time I got home, movers had already cleared her things. Every box was on its way to her parents' front door. Her closet, her makeup, her art school junk. Gone. The locks on the house were rekeyed while we were at dinner that night, and I'd already deleted her access codes from the garage and alarm system. She had no idea yet, but when she tried to come back later, she'd find nothing waiting for her. By the next morning, my inbox looked like it had been spammed by a scammer. She'd sent 30 emails overnight, some begging, some threatening, some blaming me for ruining her future. It was funny in a way. This girl thought she was entitled to my money, and when the ATM shut down, her entire personality collapsed. Around noon that day, I was in my office sketching revisions for a client when the receptionist buzzed my line. Eddie, there's a situation in the lobby. I walked out, and there she was. Amanda. Mascara smudged, hair a mess, pacing back and forth in front of the desk like she owned the building. The second she saw me, she stormed over. You can't do this to me, she yelled, loud enough for half the office to hear. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You owe me a chance to explain. I held up a hand. Calm, controlled. Amanda, this is my workplace. You're making a scene. You think you're so smart, don't you? She snapped, parading those texts like they mean something. It was my mom. She pushed me into it. You know I love you. Behind her, two of my project managers peeked around a doorway, wide-eyed. My receptionist was frozen, not sure whether to call security. I kept my voice steady. Amanda, what you did is written in your own words, with timestamps. That wasn't your mom typing for you. That was you. So no, you don't get to blame this on anyone else. She balled her fists, voice cracking. You're throwing away everything we built. I couldn't help myself. I smirked. We didn't build anything. I built. You just moved in and decorated? Her face twisted, and for a second I thought she might actually swing at me. Instead, she burst into tears again and dropped into one of the lobby chairs. You don't understand. My parents are furious. My dad barely speaks to me. I have nowhere to go. That sounds like a you problem, I said flatly. And just so we're clear, you can't be here. If you don't leave now, I'll have security escort you out. And if you come back, I'll file for a restraining order. That got her attention. She stood up, glaring at me through the tears. You'll regret this, Eddie. You think you're so perfect, but you're going to end up alone. Nobody will ever love you like I did. I looked her dead in the eye. Good. She stormed out, slamming the glass doors so hard the receptionist jumped. I turned back to the desk. Remember what we talked about. If she ever shows up again, page security first. This time I waved them off word about the meltdown spread through the office by the end of the day. My staff tried to play it cool, but I caught the smirks. Honestly, I didn't mind. Better they see me handle it calmly than hear rumors. That night, more messages. This time she'd switched strategies. Eddie, please. We can work through this. My mom is the one who wanted the mortgage thing, not me. I don't know, I was confused. Then 5 minutes later, if you don't call me back, I'm going to your parents' house. They love me. They'll make you listen. That one actually made me laugh. She thought my parents, the same parents who sat there in silence while her text messages scrolled across a big screen, were going to side with her? She really was delusional. I called my dad and gave him the heads up. He was quiet for a second, then said, "Let her come." His voice was calm, almost casual, but I knew that tone. It meant he was ready, and she had no idea what she was walking into. I blocked her number right after that. No more voicemails, no more spam emails. If she wanted to try her luck with my parents, I wasn't going to stop her. She thought she was about to play the same tricks on them that she tried on me, but my dad had been tearing down weak blueprints for 40 years. She was about to run headfirst into a wall she couldn't budge. And me? I was done. She wasn't my fiancée anymore. She wasn't even my problem. She was just a loud distraction circling the drain. So when she left that voicemail about going to my parents' house, I didn't just warn them. I made sure I was there. Saturday afternoon, I pulled into the driveway half an hour early. Mom was anxious about the whole thing, pacing the kitchen. Dad? He was in his study, calm as ever, sipping coffee and flipping through blueprints like it was just another day. That's how he is. He doesn't waste energy. He saves it for when it matters. The bell rang right on time. Mom opened the door, and there stood Amanda. Red eyes, fake tears, shaking voice. She looked like she'd practiced in the mirror on the way over. I'm so sorry to come like this, she said, almost sobbing. But Eddie won't talk to me. He's throwing everything away over a misunderstanding. Please, I just need you to hear me out. I stepped out from the hallway, arms crossed. Misunderstanding? You typed it. Once he pays off the mortgage, I'm gone. That wasn't a typo. She jumped like she didn't expect me there. Eddie, please, it wasn't me, it was my mom. She pressured me into it. I didn't mean any of it. You know I love you. Dad joined us in the entryway, tall and steady, hands in his pockets. His voice was calm, but had that edge to it. No, Amanda. Love doesn't come with a price tag and a mortgage attached. What you wrote wasn't love. It was a plan. Her voice cracked. I was scared. He cut her off. Scared people don't draft blueprints for cons. You plotted this out. You and your mother traded instructions like it was a business deal. My son wasn't your fiancé. He was your target. The silence was thick. Amanda's face twisted between anger and panic. Then, like clockwork, another knock hit the door. Mom muttered, "Oh, perfect," and opened it. Amanda's parents walked in. Russell in front, trying to look calm but sweating already. Martha behind him with that fake, concerned expression plastered on her face. Russell started first. We're so sorry to barge in like this. Our daughter is devastated, and I think Eddie may have overreacted. It's all a misunderstanding. Dad's laugh was sharp. Overreacted? Russell, I watched your daughter's texts projected on a 10-foot screen. She wasn't talking about love. She was talking about timelines and payouts. That's not a misunderstanding. That's fraud. Martha stepped forward quickly. It wasn't fraud. She was overwhelmed with the idea of starting a marriage while her parents were under so much stress. I gave her bad advice, yes, but it was out of love for her. Stop, I said flatly, cutting her off. Don't even try it. Your texts were on the screen too. Don't feel bad. Feel smart. That wasn't advice. That was coaching. Martha's face went red, but she didn't say anything. Russell puffed up, trying to regain control. Now wait a minute. Dad leaned forward slightly, voice dropping. No, you wait. Because I've already spoken to my son's lawyer. Do you know what they call it when multiple people coordinate a plan to obtain money under false pretenses? Conspiracy to commit fraud. And you know how investigators work? They dig into everything. Bank records, phone logs, transfers. They put every inch of your finances under a microscope. Russell froze. His face drained. He tried to swallow, but nothing came out. Dad didn't stop. So you tell me, Russell, how confident are you in your family's records? How clean do you think they'll look when someone starts pulling bank statements and phone records? Russell's bravado cracked instantly. He stammered, That won't be necessary. Dad stepped back, calm as ever. It's already necessary. You brought this into our home. You thought my son was just some generous fool you could bleed dry. But you forgot who raised him. Amanda turned to me, desperate now. Eddie, don't listen to this. I was confused. I didn't mean it like that. We can work through this. I smirked, arms still crossed. Work through it? Amanda, you weren't confused. You were greedy. You wanted me to pay off your parents' house. You weren't building a life with me. You were running a heist with your mom as your partner. And I don't date criminals. Her sobbing turned ugly, loud gasps that echoed through the room. Dad's voice cut through one final time. You came here looking for sympathy. You won't find it. The engagement is over. The relationship is over. If you or your parents try to contact Eddie again, we'll pursue a restraining order. That's your reality now. Mom folded her arms, her voice cold. Leave. All of you. Now. And just like that, it was over. They shuffled out, humiliated, muttering to each other before they even hit the driveway. I could hear Russell snapping at Martha. Martha blaming him back. Amanda sobbing like her world had collapsed. The door closed. Silence. Dad turned to me. Calm, steady. The site is clear. I nodded. Demolition complete. And that was exactly what it was. Clean, precise, nothing left standing. The fallout didn't take long. By Sunday afternoon, word was already circling through Amanda's extended family. One of my friends who worked at the same gallery she did texted me. Dude, she came in today like a hurricane. Crying, screaming, saying you ruined her life. Apparently, she'd tried to convince her boss to give her an advance on her paycheck because she had nowhere to live. Spoiler. They said no. Her stuff was sitting in boxes at her parents' doorstep, just like I arranged. And here's where things got good. Russell, her dad, refused to bring it inside. He told her straight up he was done funding her drama. Amanda was stuck standing in her parents' driveway, screaming at both of them, while half the neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. By Monday, I got the update from Mom. They're eating each other alive, she said. Russell's blaming Martha for everything. Martha's screaming back at him, and Amanda keeps trying to spin it like you framed her. Nobody's buying it. Good. That's exactly how I wanted it. What hit harder was when Russell finally cut her off. He wasn't stupid. He knew if investigators ever actually dug into their finances, he'd be the one holding the bag. So his solution was simple: burn the bridge. He told Amanda she was on her own. No car payments, no credit cards, no bailout money. That's when the messages started. Not to me. I had her blocked everywhere. She tried going through friends. One of my buddies forwarded me a message she sent. Can you tell Eddie I'll do anything if he forgives me? I'll pay him back someday. Please. I just laughed. Pay me back with what? She barely scraped by at a part-time gallery job. She couldn't even cover her own bills without me. Meanwhile, my life? Peaceful. I'd wake up in my own house, clean and quiet. No fake tears, no drama, no passive-aggressive comments about being a team. Just me, my work, and silence. The silence was worth more than any apology she could ever spit out. As for Amanda, she spiraled fast. Within weeks, she was couch-hopping between friends who quickly got tired of her crying and blaming me for everything. Then she tried moving back in with her parents, but Russell wasn't having it. From what I heard, he threw her boxes into the garage and told her to figure her own life out. Martha wasn't much better off. Russell turned all his anger on her. The marriage that already had cracks completely caved. My mom said she heard them arguing in the driveway once, Russell shouting, "You turned our daughter into a thief!" While Martha screamed back, "You were supposed to cover me!" It was a circus, and Amanda was at the center of it. I didn't have to lift a finger. They destroyed themselves. One night, I was sitting on my back porch when my phone buzzed from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Amanda's voice came through, broken and shaky. "Eddie, please. You don't understand what you've done. My dad won't talk to me. My mom blames me for everything. I have nothing. I need you." I let her talk for a minute, her words tumbling out in a desperate mess. Then I cut her off. "Amanda, you gambled everything on me being stupid. You lost. That's not my problem." And I hung up. Blocked the number. Done. The next morning, I sat in my office with a coffee, sketching designs for a new client. My assistant walked in with a grin. "You look lighter these days," she said. "Because I am," I replied. And I was. No more dead weight, no more leeches, just me and my work, moving forward without a parasite dragging behind. As for Amanda, last I heard she was working double shifts at the gallery, barely making rent on some rundown apartment across town. No fiancé, no financial backup, no family stability. The same mortgage she thought I'd pay? Still sitting there, hanging over her parents' heads. She didn't just lose me. She lost everything. Her plan, her family's trust, her financial lifeline. All because she thought she could play games with someone who was already 3 steps ahead. She thought she was the one running a perfect plan. But the truth? She handed me every piece of evidence I needed to burn her whole scheme down. And now she gets to live with it. Every single day. The demolition wasn't just complete. It left nothing standing. And the ground is mine to build something real on. Without her mom, without any of their lies.